Alright, I hope these videos aren't appearing compulsive. Because I each time I think I'm wrapping it up, I go just a little bit further, but it's leading to the main premise of this discussion in this series, the present series, is that so I was saying that love making is a sacrifice, and it is also it is an endearing sacrifice. But so just like so in love making, a woman sacrifices her body and also her womb to a partner. A man sacrifices his body and his seed to a woman, and his seed is both his genetic heritage, who he is, also his honor, his sense of being his manhood to a woman. And then by coming into contact with a woman, the woman is vulnerable because of the taxing of her body and lovemaking, but also the vulnerability of being pregnant and the commitment to a child. But the male is also vulnerable because of his spiritual connection to the woman and the child makes him somewhat vulnerable in that his heart can be wrapped around her finger. But also his standing as a man, his respect to himself, to women, and to other men, and to the community abroad is now associated with this woman. So were this woman to be promiscuous, depending on the culture, if this woman were promiscuous, or she was just even disrespected by another man, or she suffered and he had to witness that, that would invoke his obligation and his duty to protect her, or to at least be interested in her and be affected by her, in her decisions and what happens to her and for her. So he is vulnerable and extended in that sense by being associated with her, and also being invested in her. He's doubly vulnerable because of that, and therefore he's sacrificing to her by coming close enough to allow himself to have feelings, fall in love, and then if it goes there, to have an interest, a genetic interest in the woman and the child. And they've said that actually a man's connection to a child is a function of his connection to the woman, because if somehow, because you have women who may be poor mothers but not bad mothers, but you do have fathers who can be poor and bad fathers, and not committed or engaged or bonded to a child to different degrees. That's happened. I experienced a fair amount of what could be appreciated as a lack of interest as a child, because I can remember I was a pretty strong athlete, but I can't remember too many of any games that my father got to. And I drove by so I went to a middle school very close to where I lived for a large part of my life as a child and adult. And then I also attended classes there as an adult with both my parents. And then after all that, I drove by that building where I went to middle school and attended classes as an adult with my family. And my father asked, "What's the name of that? What is that building? Is that a school there?" And so I actually went to middle school there. And my father said, "Is that a school?" And he's not senile. So that would just show you a little bit of my background. But that's not necessarily bad. But there's actually different styles and investment in parents. And some people would say that over investment can be detrimental too, over investing, over protecting can also be damaging to a child, because children need a sense of independence, and they also need to a little bit press up against boundaries as a form of creating their own comfort in their own decision making. And the pressing up against boundaries is part of going into past comfort zone, and therefore creating new comfort zone that will amount the boundaries that they're able to establish and surround who will be in their supervision and guardianship, both male and female. So that's actually natural. So a little bit of actually a little bit of the aloofness, or even they would say neglect in modern clinical terms, but I think clinicism yet another form of abuse in itself, as are its terms. So that can be equally problematic. The term and the concept can be as problematic as the reality that it's referring to, if not worse, and such as diagnosis, I think. But actually part of that very aloofness of parents might be natural. So it might actually be natural for the father to be a little bit more aloof than the mother. That might be a healthy part of nature. Like when I was a kid, I would actually have fun as my father was getting distracted in conversations and forgetting about me, because that means I could have more fun. I could stay out later. I could do more cool things, not having to worry about him worrying about me. But we do need some investment and attention from our parents, but not too much, and probably to different degrees with the different parents. And I've actually thought that maybe a more natural setting is that, because some people have wondered if it's actually healthy for men and women to cohabitate. It's healthy to come into contact and create families, obviously, and enjoy lovemaking and thrills, but actually to be sharing living quarters. Some people have questioned if that's natural between men and women. And in previous times, men and women wouldn't necessarily, in all cultures, have been sharing living quarters, and shared living quarters might be part of feudalism and some of the dynamics of living in economics during feudal society, and our modern iterations of society that are a function of feudalism and attended by feudalism, in my opinion. In my estimation. I don't mean to say opinion arrogant like that, but all I meant to say is that it might actually be more healthy just to create families, and for a father to actually have a loose or peripheral or even somewhat aloof presence in a child's life, because a lot of children don't like an overbearing father. I did not. And some of the greatest support and insight are from different males, like cousins, uncles, and just men in a community. And some of my greatest lessons and coolest experiences were just from other men that I grew up around, of different degrees. My senior, from maybe months, years, 5 of years, 10s of years, 20 different men of different grades have really helped shape and rear me. But that might be natural. But all I meant to say is that in this dynamic between men and women, it's a sacrifice, but it amounts to life, because the man in perfect lovemaking, I think the man dies to himself and dies to the woman and is reborn in the woman, and the woman to a similar degree in the man. And actually, I think if you've ever had feelings for a woman as a man, whether you've been associated with her, which actually to have feelings means you're already associated, at least in your heart, but you might have been to different degrees publicly associated, however you appreciate that already. If you've developed feelings, that actually might be the same thing as feelings. When you're saying feelings, you might say associating. You've either associated in terms of identity, emotions, value, interest, just ideating. And that's what the feelings are. It's actually associating. So when you say they have feelings for that person, no, they're associating with that person. But it more so is very compelling. But I think that if you actually do have feelings for a person that are authentic, you are reborn through those feelings. Whether you are able to achieve making love, contacting that person, enjoying that person, and actually having a child together, that might actually be a unique blessing. And some people have said that statistics of any human being being born are astronomical. So the statistics are maybe more astronomical to have a child born of someone that you're attracted to or interested in or appreciate. That might be very sublime. That might be profound in terms of statistics. The viability and possibility and consummation of that is incredible. But whether or not that happens, just to be falling in love or interested in a person, and some of the heartbreak that would come from that, some of the lessons that would come from that, some of the strength that would come from that, some of the pain that would come from that, some of the thrill and romance that would come from that, it amounts to a rebirth for a man. And it makes you evolve as a person. To have feelings for a person makes you evolve. Whatever relationship or outcome you have together or share together, just to have feelings for a person is a rebirth, I think. So with women, we get rebirth, whether it's in the form of a child or our own development. And there's probably different purposes for both of that. And that benefits different people and children, both of that, because when we become more of a man, either for our own child or for a community, men, women, and children benefit by us becoming a better person. So you could say there's always a benefit to men, women, and children when two people fall in love or just have a strong feeling for each other.